While we're waiting for some more folks to join us, go ahead and write in the chat where you are from, maybe what school your child goes to, how you heard about us. And if you are writing in the chat, just go ahead and click panelist and attendee so everyone can see you. And I'll wait just a few more minutes for folks to join. See, we have someone from Tampa. Welcome. Sunset Park Elementary, Miami, Florida. Welcome. We're in Hollywood. I see Miami, Naples, Stuart, Florida, Indian River Lagoon. Welcome. See, we have folks from all over the state today. Love it. In Orlando, welcome. Miami. I see Coral Reef Elementary, Fairchild Elementary, Miami Beach, Lake Stevens Elementary, Citrus Cove, Key West. Awesome. North Hialeah, Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Love it. Grandview Prep. Wonderful. While folks are still coming in, we're going to go ahead and get started. So again, hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our first ever Families for Everglades Family Night. We're so excited to have you here today as we discuss what is the Everglades, where is the Everglades, and why the Everglades is so important, especially to us living in Florida. Whether you're in North, Central, or South Florida, the Everglades is important to all of us. And it's important to teach about teach to our families at home about the Everglades. So the reason why we're having this tonight is tomorrow is actually Everglades Day. It celebrates Marjorie Stoneman Douglas's birthday. So she was an American journalist, author, women's suffrage advocate, and an Everglades conservationist. Her book, Everglades River of Grass, changed the way people viewed the Everglades. She helped change the narrative in that it is a treasured river rather than a worthless swamp. So tomorrow's a really great day to take the resources, take some information that you learned today, and bring it to your families, bring it to the dinner table to teach all about the Everglades and why it's so important. So I see that the chat has a lot of folks in it, so thank you so much for participating. Again, go ahead and type in the chat, what is your favorite activity to do with your family? We believe that getting out in nature is a really great way to learn about nature, to love nature, and a really great way to get outside with your family, especially in the past year. So I see going to the park. That's a really great nature activity to do with your family. Bird watching, fishing. I see, yep, swimming, kayaking, fishing. Love it. Those are all wonderful things that we can do as Floridians, wonderful things that we can do living in Florida, walk in the park, bike riding, lots of really great things that we can do. So a love of nature, conservation in the Everglades starts at home, and it starts with you. So moving on to our webinar guidelines. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please drop them in the chat. So everyone's doing a really great job now. We can see while you're in your chat, panelists and attendees. We will make sure to answer any questions that you have throughout the presentation. You can also use the Q&A format in the webinar. And we're also going to be using polls. So polls are a really great way to just engage with the group and see what everyone thinks. All of our polls will be anonymous this evening. And with that comes our first poll. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. And it is sharing expectations. So go ahead and answer the poll on your computer. First question is, what are your expectations for your evening? To learn about the Everglades, to learn about the Everglades Foundation, to learn how to teach my children about the Everglades. Not sure, maybe your child made you, or other, you can explain in the chat. And the next question is, have you ever been to the Everglades? Yes, yes, and you've taken your family. No, but it's on your bucket list. I don't know where it is. No, it's too swampy, or other. You can explain in the chat. Awesome. So thank you all for voting. Again, all of these polls are anonymous. So once I share, we'll get a good look and see what everyone thinks. Driven it by on the way to Miami. Absolutely. That's great. All right. Just a few more moments while everyone takes in their votes. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So many of you are here today, about 57%, to learn about the Everglades. Well, you've came to the right spot. We're hoping to give you some really great knowledge to bring home to your families. You can learn about the Everglades Foundation and to teach your child about the Everglades. And have you ever been to the Everglades? We're all over the place. So 37% say yes, 37% say yes, and you've taken your family. 17% no, it's on my bucket list. 6% don't know where it is. That's okay. Hopefully by the end of this you will. And we had the other. So awesome. Thank you so much for answering the poll, and we'll continue to have our polls throughout the night. So I'd like to begin by introducing you to the Everglades Foundation. So the Everglades Foundation is a nonprofit environmental organization that works to restore the Everglades through science, advocacy, and education. So it was founded in 1993 by two outdoor enthusiasts who are concerned about the health of their water. So we're part of the education team known as the Everglades Literacy Program. And so we help to put on different presentations for teachers, for students, and now for families. We do have a robust education team with our directors, managers, our Champion School Programs manager, environmental education specialist, and outreach assistant. My name is Kim Gooch. I'm the host of the evening, and I am the Everglades Literacy Program Coordinator, and I'm located in Orlando. This is a statewide program. We believe that Everglades literacy is important throughout the entire state of Florida. So again, like I said at the beginning, whether you're in North, Central, or South Florida, we're here to teach you about the Everglades. So at the end of the evening, and as well as tomorrow and the rest of the week, we'll be sharing with you our education program resources and how to bring this Everglades discussion to the dinner table. But for now, we're going to dive right in and talk about where is the Everglades. So if you were to ask your family, where is the Everglades, what do you think that they would say? So again, let us know in the chat. Where do you think the Everglades is, or how do you think your children would answer where the Everglades is? In Florida, in South Florida, Miami, South Florida, I don't know. Those are all really great responses. And those are typically the responses that we get. And you're not wrong. The Everglades is in Florida. It is in South Florida. Part of it's in Miami, south of Lake Okeechobee, most of South Florida. Those are all really great answers. And it's important to ask these questions because as Floridians, it's important to know about this really big and important ecosystem that we rely on every single day. So now we're going to take a look at the map of the Everglades. So this is the historic Everglades, so over 100 years ago. The historic Everglades begins just south of Orlando in Shingle Creek near Kissimmee. So you can see the star on the map. Historically, water would flow through the Kissimmee chain of lakes, through the Kissimmee River, and into Lake Okeechobee. Lake Okeechobee would overflow its southern brim into a wide, slow-moving river nicknamed the River of Grass. And eventually that fresh water would make its way down into the southern part of the Everglades, Florida Bay. And we call this the KOE, the Kissimmee Okeechobee Everglades watershed. So if you look on the map, anything that is under this blue line is part of the greater Everglades ecosystem. So if you said Florida, South Florida, Miami, south of Lake Okeechobee, even if you said Kissimmee, you would be correct, right? The Everglades is all under this blue line. But now we have a different map on the screen. It's important to point out the historic map because it is a little bit different than the altered map. The Everglades has changed over time due to people moving to Florida and dredging and draining the original Everglades for reasons like agriculture, infrastructure, and flood control. And we'll touch about that on a later slide. But now that you've seen the historic map and the altered map, we have some poll questions to ask you about the map. All right, so 2 questions should have just popped up on your screen. First one, where is the Everglades? South Florida, Naples, the National Park, Kissimmee to Florida Bay? And do you live in the Everglades? Yes, no, I have no idea. So go ahead and answer. Again, these are all anonymous. And there are no wrong answers. All right, go ahead and end the poll, share the results. So 52% say Kissimmee to Florida Bay. Awesome. Yep, that is the historic Everglades. 45% say South Florida. And absolutely, you'll see that on the map with the Everglades National Park, as well as all of the different compartments of the Everglades, like the agricultural area, water conservation areas, Big Cypress National Preserve. Naples, right? So Southwest Florida, you'll see quite a bit of the Everglades ecosystem over there. And do you live in the Everglades? So we're split down the middle. 45% say yes, 48% say no, and 6% say no idea. And that's okay. So the map is a really fun and interactive way to share with your families at home. You can pull out a map and explain to your family if you live in the Everglades, if you've ever been to the Everglades, or even if you've ever driven through the Everglades. So a really great way to point out that the Everglades is all around us. And that leads us to our next slide. The Everglades is in our backyard. It's all around us and we care about the water we share. From drinking water to the economy, it really is all about the water. And so we'll definitely be referencing that quite a bit, that the Everglades is all about the water. We're going to share with you some common myths and misconceptions about the Everglades. So living in Florida, you've probably heard some crazy stories about the Everglades. You've probably heard some of these common myths and misconceptions, but we're here to teach you some of these amazing and fun facts about the Everglades. And these are great talking points that you can share with your families. So I see we had a question about the first poll results. Lots of great answers. So before we begin to talk about what the Everglades is, it's important to talk about what the Everglades is not. Myth number 1, the Everglades is a big swamp filled with scary animals and mosquitoes. Probably heard that one before. But the Everglades is the largest subtropical wetland in North America. The Everglades is also a really a wide, slow moving river. And it is incredibly diverse. There are over 200 species in the Everglades, over 360 bird species, 50 reptile species, over 40 species of mammals, and hundreds of fish species and more. And the Everglades is the only place in the entire world where you can find both the American alligator and the American crocodile living together in nature. And in fact, there's a really great image on the screen where you can see those differences between the American alligator and the American crocodile. And they're both very important to the Everglades. The alligator is actually a keystone species. They build alligator holes during the dry season that help other animals find water. The Everglades has plenty of different plants and animals that call the Everglades home. It was the first national park to be established to protect the fragile ecosystem and prevent further degradation of its land, plants, and animals. There are 78 threatened or endangered species that live in the Everglades. And a success story of that is the bald eagle. Our nation's bird actually lives in the Everglades. So they'll nest in the tall trees of the pineland forest and then travel to the mangrove or the cypress swamp in order to find food to eat. And another wonderful species in the Everglades is the Florida panther. They're a critically endangered species. There are only about 100 to 200 left in the wild. So we have plenty of different resources on our website that you can teach your families about these amazing animals and plants and habitats that live in the Everglades. All right, so myth number 2, the Everglades is boring, right? You might think there's nothing to do there. It's just a big swamp. When really the Everglades has many different habitats, right? Not only is the Everglades diverse with its plants and animals, but it has dry and wet habitats, from the dry prairies to the mangrove swamps, all the way down to Florida Bay. And speaking of those wet habitats, it has freshwater habitats, saltwater habitats, and brackish estuaries, which is a mix between freshwater and saltwater. The Everglades has the largest mangrove ecosystem in the Western Hemisphere. And if you've ever seen mangroves, you know how beautiful they are, maybe how fun they are to kayak through, but they're also really great because they provide storm protection, nurseries for young fish, and they filter the water. There are so many different things that you can do in the Everglades. You can hike, bike, camp, fish, birdwatch, geocache, kayak, boat, take photos, and more in the Everglades. So I saw many of these different activities in the chat. So these are just some really great ways that you can explore the Everglades with your family. It's one of the most biodiverse places in the world. And it also provides for us ecosystem services. So not only are these habitats so cool to be in, but they also provide so many benefits for us living in Florida. So these benefits are incredibly important, like filtering and cleaning the water and air, storing the water, providing flood control, preventing erosion, helping to mitigate climate change, and providing beauty and shade, which we know is super important in Florida. But the Everglades is also where we get our water. So it's really all about the water that we share. So you can see here are just some more examples of ecosystem services. The Everglades is important to everyone, and a healthy, restored Everglades is important to everyone. So forests like our pinelands, hardwood hammocks, and wetlands, and the wet habitats like cypress swamps and mangrove swamps provide ecosystem services like the filtering the water, cleaning the air, preventing soil erosion with their long and sturdy roots. And that also helps with climate change. So we're very lucky to be in such a great state in the Everglades that provides for us so many of these different ecosystem services. And myth number 3, the Everglades is not important. We know that that is not true. The Everglades provides for us that water. So 40% of Floridians rely on the Everglades for their water supply. It's about 9 million people. The Everglades recharges the Biscayne Aquifer, which stores the drinking water for South Florida. So we're very lucky in the state of Florida that our water is right underneath us, and we're able to pool that water with wells in order to use it. So the Everglades sits on top of the Biscayne Aquifer and helps to refill that. We know that a healthy and restored Everglades helps to fight climate change. and that the Everglades supports South Florida's economy, such as tourism, real estate, agriculture, recreation, and more. So there are so many different ecosystem benefits and so many reasons why we need the Everglades. And here's just a few more of them. So why is it important to protect the Everglades? And why is the Everglades important? So going back to the water, it's all about the water. That's right, we drink from the Everglades. It provides the water for 9 million Floridians and tourists every year. The economy, right? South Florida's economy relies on the Everglades. In fact, there is a 4-to-1 return on investment for Everglades restoration. So working to restore the Everglades is great for the Everglades as well as the economy. Boating and fishing contribute billions of dollars to Florida's economy each year. So not only do we use the water for drinking, but we use it for these recreational purposes. So if you're a fisherman or a fisherwoman, you want the water you're fishing in to be a thriving environment. So that's where a healthy Everglades comes into play. Jobs. Jobs are super important for our families and for South Florida. Everglades restoration projects will create at least 65,000 jobs. Tourism is actually the largest industry in Florida and is negatively impacted by environmental degradation. And real estate. So studies show that real estate values in Florida are directly tied to water quality. So if you're a real estate agent or if you're looking to buy a house, you're certainly wanting to be looking for a house that has beautiful water around it rather than polluted water. And families. We know that spending time in the Everglades with your families is great for your health and well-being, especially this past year. So it's really important to get outside and learn about the Everglades and learn about nature by being in it. So these are just some examples of how our quality of life depends on the Everglades. Yes, thank you, Susan. But unfortunately, the Everglades has changed over time. Like we saw in the beginning slides, there was a historic map and there was an altered map. So the Everglades has changed. It's half its original size, and the remaining Everglades ecosystem still encompasses 3 million acres. So in the last 100 years, the Everglades has been altered, changing the natural flow of water. And so that's why we're here, right? That's why we need parents, we need young kids, we need everyone to know about the Everglades so we can help protect and restore that natural flow of water from Kissimmee down to Florida Bay. So it's up to you to help educate the next generation of Everglades stewards. We're living in a reduced, disconnected, and thirsty Everglades. You can see the differences between these two maps. Here's the historic Everglades from Kissimmee, Okeechobee, down into the Everglades River of Grass. And here's the current or altered Everglades, right? We see more water is being pushed west through the Caloosahatchee River and east through the St. Lucie River. And not a lot of that fresh water is making its way down into Florida Bay and into the Everglades River of Grass. So that's why restoration is so important. And that's why you're here today, because you all and your families are the next and the future voters, policymakers, educators. We're relying on the next generation to carry on our goal of restoration. So we need your help in saving the Everglades. So we have a fun little activity that we're going to play now called Everglades Dilemmas. So we've learned a little bit about the Everglades and why it's so important. So this is a great activity that you can play at home with your families to put yourself in the Everglades and imagine yourself in the situation. So you can answer how you or your family would handle these situations. There are no right or wrong answers, but it provides a great conversation starter. So you can really imagine yourself in these situations and what would you do. For time's sake, we're only going to be doing 2 Everglades dilemmas, but this is one of our 8th grade lessons, and there are many different dilemmas that you can do online on our website. All right, so our first dilemma is a lot of fun, and you might have found yourself in this situation before. But you and your friends are hiking in Everglades National Park and you see someone dumping a 55-gallon drum of a dark liquid into the water next to the trail. What should you do? Number one, would you run over and ask what's going on? Quickly use your cell phone to call the police. This is an environmental hazard and can harm the wildlife that live here. Wait until the person leaves, then investigate by smelling and feeling the liquid. Take down the license plate number of the nearby truck and report the situation to the fire department. Nothing, it's none of your business. The cost to clean this mess up will be charged to Everglades National Park or other. Let us know in the chat. So this will be another poll. You can go ahead and answer these as soon as I launch it. Excellent. So again, there are no wrong answers. These are all anonymous. Yeah, so go ahead and put your answers in the poll, or I see we already have some answers in the chat. Excellent. We'll give everyone a few more moments to decide. Maybe you're with your family at home and asking them the question, seeing what they would say. All right, I'll go ahead and end the results. All right, so 54% say number two, to quickly use your cell phone to call the police. It's an environmental hazard. 15% run over and ask what's going on. 5% want to feel and smell the liquid. 21% take down the license plate number. And 5% other. Let us know in the chat. So those are some really great responses. Thank you all for answering. As you can see, it definitely allows you to think. You can certainly ask your family these interesting questions, and it's a great conversation starter with your friends about how you would help the Everglades in this situation. All right, so moving on to number two. This is another fun one. Your neighbor, Miss Rose, has the most beautiful garden around. Unfortunately, she keeps her garden growing with commercial fertilizer, which she applies weekly. Every time it rains, the water that falls on her garden carries some of this fertilized soil into the storm drains and eventually into the waterways. Fertilizers are loaded with nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen, and fertilized soil carries nutrients that harm the environment and have negative effects on water quality. There is a law known as the Clean Water Act, which regulates the amount of pollution that is allowed into our waters. What do you do in this situation? Number one, don't say anything. It's really none of your business. Number two, offer Miss Rose a startup kit for native plants or a vegetable garden instead of roses. Number three, steal her bags of fertilizer every time she goes to the store before they get to the garden. Number four, tell Miss Rose about the negative effects of phosphate pollution and help her start a compost pile. Number five, help Miss Rose put up a fence around her garden, hoping this will block some of the fertilizer, or other. So this is another poll that I will share. Just like our other ones, this is a anonymous poll. So go ahead and put your answers in and then we'll share. Now this one is interesting, and I'm sure many of us have beautiful gardens at home or are trying to. I know myself, I'm trying to garden, especially this past year. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll and share the results. Wow, so we had a overwhelming amount 77% go with answer number 4. Tell Miss Rose about the negative effects of phosphate pollution and help her start a compost pile. So that's a really great teachable moment. So whether it's with your families at home, your neighbors, maybe some folks in your neighborhood, or if you're part of an HOA, it's important to spread the word. Every little bit helps. So, teaching about those negative effects, that's a great way to help the Everglades overall. 5% don't say anything. 8% offer a startup kit for native plants or a vegetable garden. That's another really great way to help out the Everglades. Native plants attract native butterflies, native caterpillars. A pollinator garden is great to have in your backyard, or even a vegetable garden, so you can have a sustainable way of getting food. No one wants to steal her bags. That's okay. Help Miss Rose put up a fence that will block some of the fertilizer runoff, 8%. And then we have some others. So awesome. As you can see, these are some really fun dilemmas and activities, these situations that you can certainly talk to your friends and family about at home. All right, so I know we just gave you a lot of information about the Everglades and different ways that you can help the Everglades. But in the chat, go ahead and type what new or interesting information you learned about the Everglades this evening. So whether it was about a plant or an animal, whether it was about the habitats or ecosystems, or even the ecosystem services that the Everglades provide, let us know something that you learned in the chat. The way it's changing over time, absolutely, yeah. Learn about the animals, excellent. Yeah, it's amazing how much we rely on the Everglades for ecosystem services, how the size has changed over time, the American alligator and American crocodile living together, only 100 to 200 panthers left. The Everglades is very important. Yeah, a lot of our water has been reduced. The Everglades takes up a larger area than you thought. We need the Everglades and geocaching. I love that. Yeah, you never know what you're going to learn. Substantial restoration efforts. Yeah, absolutely. And our foundation works hard with policy and advocacy for those restoration efforts. Absolutely. Helps climate change, gives water, ecosystems and what they give to us. We need to help restore it. Awesome. These are really great answers. Thank you all so much for sharing in the chat. So just to recap, as we're nearing the end, something really important and just a great things to share, regardless of who you're talking to, is that the Everglades is all around us. I loved seeing in the chat that some of you were surprised that you lived in the Everglades, or that you had actually been to the Everglades before, the Everglades ecosystem. So it's great to stay informed. Pull out a map and explain to your friends and family that we live in the Everglades and it's up to us to protect it. Another great fun fact is the Everglades is filled with unique and valuable wildlife. So again, back to those plants and animals, back to those different habitats, back to the ecosystem services. There are so many cool plants and animals that live in the Everglades that don't live anywhere else in the world. And there are endangered and threatened species that live in the Everglades, and they need the Everglades so that they can continue to exist. So this is a great chance for you to get outside, visit a state park, nature center, or the Everglades and explore. You can see how many different plants and animals you can find. And on our website, we have so many different educational opportunities where you can study these plants and animals and maybe go on a backyard scavenger hunt. And number 3, we need the Everglades. Yes, if there's anything you can take away from the evening, is that we need the Everglades, and the Everglades needs us to protect and restore it. So spread the word. Explain to your friends and family that we live in the Everglades and it's up to us to restore it. And it really is all about the water that we share. Yeah, Shark Valley is an awesome location for families to visit. Seeing native wading birds in your backyard. Absolutely. Yeah, those are all really great ways to enjoy the Everglades. So like we mentioned at the beginning, we know there was a lot of information. So we don't expect you to know it all right away. So we'll be sure to send in a follow-up email, an informational packet about how you can teach your families at home about the Everglades. And of course, we encourage you to check out our different websites and spread the word this week, as it is Everglades week. And tomorrow is Everglades Day. So like I said, we'll be sending you that free resource packet with plenty of information and activities. And we certainly want to see you on social media. So be sure to tag us, Everglades Literacy Program, on Facebook using the hashtag Everglades Literacy with your family while you're doing Everglades adventures or activities. And tomorrow is Everglades Day. It's also Marjorie Stoneman Douglas's birthday. So you can have a birthday party for the grandmother of the Glades. It's really a great day to honor this unique wetland ecosystem as well as celebrate her. She was a writer and activist for the River of Grass, and without her, the Everglades might not be what it is. She really changed the way people saw the Everglades, and that it was important. And there's beauty, and we're lucky to have it in the state of Florida. So the education team, known as the Everglades Literacy Program, is here to help you and here to help your school, your children's school, connect to the Everglades. So if you enjoyed our presentation this evening, and if you've never heard of us, definitely check us out at www.evergladesliteracy.org. So the Everglades Literacy Program empowers the next generation of conservation stewards by investing in teachers to drive cultural change within schools for the benefit of local and ecological communities. So just a few of the things that we provide is free standards aligned K through 12 interdisciplinary curriculum, distance learning resources, virtual Everglades literacy teacher trainings, classroom presentations, field trip opportunities, and community partners all over the state of Florida. So certainly check us out and let us know if you have any questions. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas said it best in her book, The Everglades River of Grass, that there are no other Everglades in the world. They are, and they have always been, one of the unique regions of the earth, remote and never wholly known. So really take this information that you learned today, share with your families, share with your friends, share with your neighbors. It's up to us, it's up to the next generation to carry on the legacy of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, to be Everglades heroes, and to save and protect the Everglades. So we'll be sticking around if you have any questions about the Everglades Foundation, or the Everglades Literacy Program. But thank you all so much for joining us today. We know it's a busy week. We know it's a Tuesday night at 7:30, but we're super excited to have you all here today. And we're hoping to have more of our Families for Everglades family nights. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We'll be sticking around to answer those. But other than that, have a wonderful night. Thank you. Yes, Marjorie is my hero. We love the Everglades. I know we have a lot of our participating schools and champion schools in the chat. Completed Everglades Literacy Week at your school. Donna, that's awesome. I see we dropped the website in the chat, www.evergladesliteracy.org. Great question. Does the foundation offer programs for homeschoolers? Yes. So all of that information on our website, www.evergladesliteracy.org, all of that is for homeschools, homeschool cohorts, groups. We're happy to participate in a teacher training. We're happy to participate in a classroom or a cohort or a home presentation. We even have a homeschool applying to become an Everglades champion school this year, which is a really great free program that we offer. So yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you all very much. We definitely want to take action. My son is the Everglades Ambassador Program at his elementary school. I love it. Everglades Garden with painted rocks and animals that the kids painted. So fun. Yes, and in the chat, Jackie shared a really great link through the Everglades Foundation. So the evergladesfoundation.org/get involved. That's a really great way to become an Everglades advocate and stay involved and learn, stay informed with everything going on. So we'll send that link in the follow-up email as well. Thank you, Jackie. Yes, thank you. Have a great rest of the week. Have a great Everglades Day tomorrow. Have a great Everglades week. Have a great Earth Day, right? Have a great Earth Month, Water Conservation Month. So many fun things going on.